Welcome back, everyone, to another tale that'll keep you up at night. This one's personal, raw, and so twisted it'll leave you questioning everyone you love. Imagine me, a 78-year-old widow named Margaret. Most folks call me Maggie, living alone in a sprawling, creaky Victorian house on the outskirts of Willow Creek. The paint's peeling, the floors groan with every step, and the air smells faintly of mildew and memories. My husband, Tom, died a decade ago, leaving me a fortune that'd make your jaw drop. Millions in real estate, stocks from his hardware empire, and a secret stash of gold bars hidden behind a loose panel in the attic. I never flaunted it, kept my life simple, knitting, gardening, and doting on my family. Especially my grandson, Ethan. Ethan was my sunshine. Every Sunday, like clockwork, he'd roll up in his beat-up Honda, that mop of brown hair flopping over his forehead, and spend hours with me. He'd bring chamomile tea, my favorite, and regale me with tales of college life, his dreams of starting some tech business. I'd listen, sipping away, proud as could be. He had Tom's charm, that boy. I thought he was my rock in a world that had grown cold and quiet. But rocks can crack, and what I found beneath his surface, pure poison. It started with the little things. After his visits, I'd feel off dizzy spells that made the room spin, hands trembling so bad I'd drop my knitting needles, a sour ache in my gut that kept me up all night. I chalked it up to age at first. 78 years wear a body down, arthritis, maybe a touch of the flu. But then I found that vial. Tiny, no bigger than my thumb, filled with a clear liquid. No label, no smell. I figured it was some forgotten cleaner, shoved it back, and forgot about it. Until one Sunday, I caught him. Ethan, my sweet boy, hovering over my teacup, his back to me as he slipped something from his pocket into the brew. He stirred it quick, turned around with that smile, and handed it over. "Drink up, Nana," he said. I froze. My heart thudded so loud I thought he'd hear it. I didn't sip it. Made an excuse though, I'm not thirsty yet, and watched him. He didn't push, just chatted away like nothing was wrong. But I saw it in his eyes, a flicker, a hunger I'd never noticed before. That's when it hit me. A month earlier, I'd redone my will. My 3 kids, Ellen, Mark, and Sarah, would split most of it, fair and square. But Ethan, I'd left him the biggest chunk, nearly $2 million in cash and property. He'd come to me weeks before, all earnest, begging for a loan. "Nana, I've got this business idea, big potential. Just need a boost." I'd brushed it off, said he'd get plenty when I was gone. Now, I wondered, was when I'm gone too far off for him? Did he want it now? I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed proof, and I needed to be sure I wasn't losing my mind. So I played his game. Next visit, he brought the tea again. I took a tiny sip, enough to taste the faint bitterness, then faked a coughing fit, clutched my chest like I was fading. He jumped up, all concerned. "Nana, you okay? Need water?" His voice was smooth, but his eyes, they gleamed. I mumbled something about feeling faint, let him fuss over me. After he left, I poured the rest down the sink and started digging. Checked his coat pockets when he wasn't looking, nothing but gum and a receipt. But then I remembered that vial. I fished it out, held it up to the light, and my gut screamed. This wasn't cleaner. This was death in a bottle. My own grandson, poisoning me for money. It wasn't just betrayal, it was war. And I wasn't about to lose. I'd survived worse than him. He wanted my inheritance. Fine. I'd make him work for it and regret it. I wasn't the fragile old bat Ethan took me for. I'd lived through the tail end of a war, rationing food while bombs rattled the horizon. Raised 3 kids alone after Tom's ticker quit on us in '83, fending off bill collectors with a shotgun once when they got too bold. I'd even outfoxed a slick lawyer in '98 who tried to siphon half my savings into some offshore scam. If Ethan thought a few drops of whatever was in that vial could take me down, he'd misjudged his Nana badly, so I turned the tables. This wasn't his game anymore, it was mine. Back in the '60s, I taught high school chemistry. Loved it, those kids mixing compounds, wide-eyed when something fizzed or sparked. I'd kept my old kit, beakers, pipettes, a microscope Tom bought me for my 30th birthday. That vial Ethan left. I took it up there under the naked bulb, hand steady despite the years. Dropped a sample onto a slide, added a reagent I'd kept in a sealed jar, potassium iodide, good for sniffing out arsenic. The liquid turned cloudy yellow. Bingo. Arsenic, slow and insidious, the kind that mimics a natural decline. He wasn't rushing me off, he wanted it quiet, clean. Clever little snake, but I was craftier. I swapped his poison out. Next Sunday, he came with his tea routine. I let him dose my cup, watched him stir it with that smug little twitch of his lip. Then I played my part, took a sip, let my eyes flutter, coughed like my lungs were giving out. "Oh, Ethan, I don't feel so good," I rasped, slumping in my chair. He leapt up, all fake whirring, patting my back. "Nana, maybe you should rest." I nodded, let him guide me to the couch, and peeked through half-closed lids as he texted someone, probably Ricky, his fingers flying over the screen. I'd hooked him. Now I'd reel him in. He thought he was winning, but I was just warming up. I called my lawyer, Helen, that night. She's a sharp one, been with me since the '98 fiasco. Told her to whip up a fake will, something convincing. Made it look like I'd had a change of heart, cut Ethan out entirely, left every dime to the Willow Creek Cat Sanctuary. I even had her add a sappy note, "For the strays who never betrayed me." Printed it on her fancy letterhead, signed it with a shaky hand for effect. Next visit, I left it carelessly on the kitchen table while I shuffled off to nap. Ethan couldn't resist. I heard the paper rustle from the hall, caught his reflection in the china cabinet glass. His face went from smug to ashen in seconds. He stormed over, voice trembling. "Nana, what's this about a new will?" "Cats, really?" I blinked up at him, all innocent. "Oh, honey, I just want to do some good before I go." "You'll be fine without it, right?" He didn't argue, but I saw the gears turning. Next visit, the tea stopped. Instead, he showed up with daisies, my favorite. He knew that, and a box of chocolates from the corner store. Started calling me Nana dearest, laying on the charm so thick I nearly gagged. I played along, cooing over the flowers, nibbling a chocolate while watching him squirm. Thought maybe he'd given up, scared off by the fake will. But then, late one night, I heard him in the hallway, his voice low and urgent on the phone. I crept closer, pressed against the wall, and caught it. "Ricky, we need a new plan." "She's tougher than I thought. Poison's too slow, she's still kicking." My stomach twisted. Poison was just the appetizer. He had something bigger cooking, and I'd damn well find out what. I wasn't scared anymore, I was livid. This wasn't just about money. Ethan was enjoying this, like a cat toying with a half-dead mouse. But I'd been a fighter all my life, and I had one hell of a counterpunch brewing. He'd see soon enough. You don't cross Maggie Callahan and walk away clean. Ethan thought he'd pivoted smoothly, ditching the poison, piling on the charm like some prodigal grandson. Daisies, chocolates, that syrupy Nana dearest routine. It was almost laughable how hard he was trying. But I'd raised Ellen, Mark, and Sarah through tantrums, lies, and teenage schemes. I could smell bullshit from a mile off, and Ethan reeked of it. That phone call I'd overheard, a new plan. It gnawed at me, kept me up nights, wondering what he'd cook up next. So I stopped wondering and started snooping. He'd been staying over more lately, claiming it was to keep an eye on me. Sweet, right? I'd given him Mark's old room, still had the baseball trophies and faded Zeppelin posters from the '80s. Thought it was nostalgic, letting him crash there. Now, I wasn't so sure. Waited till he left for one of his errands, probably meeting Ricky, and slipped in. The room smelled like his cologne, sharp and cheap. Bed was unmade, clothes strewn across the floor, but under the bed, a metal lockbox, small and dented, secured with a padlock. I hadn't picked a lock since '75, when Tom locked us out of the shed, but muscle memory's a hell of a thing. Grabbed a hairpin from my sweater, knelt down, knees popping like firecrackers, and fiddled till it clicked open. Inside was a nightmare in miniature. The syringe half full of something murky gleamed under my flashlight. The burner phone was a cheap flip model, scratched up like it had been tossed around. And the note. Ricky, 50/50th split. Car accident. Friday. My breath caught. Friday was tomorrow. I flipped open the phone. Thank God it wasn't password locked. Hand scrolled the texts. Brakes are set. She never suspect. Bank run. Perfect excuse. My old Buick, the one I'd taught Ethan to drive in, parked in the garage collecting dust. He'd turned it into a death trap. A car accident. No messy poison trail. Just a tragic loss for the grieving grandson to mourn over my millions. I sat there on the cold concrete, staring at those cuts, and felt something snap. Could have called Sheriff Dan right then. Known him since he was in diapers. He'd have hauled Ethan in, no questions asked. But that was too easy. Ethan wanted to dance. I'd lead. Took me 3 hours with a wrench and a YouTube tutorial. How to fix brake lines for dummies. But I patched it up, good as new. Then I set the bait. Called him next morning, voice all frail. Ethan, I'm heading to the bank Friday to tweak the will again. Putting you back in, bigger than before, 2.5 million. How's that sound? His "Oh, Nana, you're the best" was so eager I could have bottled it. He thought he'd sealed my fate. Friday rolled around, and we climbed into the Buick, me behind the wheel, him shotgun, practically bouncing with anticipation. He didn't know I'd rewired his plan. The real crash wasn't coming from the brakes, it was coming from me. Ethan was riding high, thinking he'd outsmarted me. The brakes he'd fixed, the will I'd updated. He saw himself as some mastermind, counting my money before my body was cold. I let him stew, kept the Buick steady at 45, humming along like nothing was wrong. He kept eyeing the dashboard, waiting for that moment I'd hit a curve, stomp the brakes, and nothing. "Nana, careful on these turns," he said, voice tight. I grinned. "Don't worry, honey. I've driven this road since before you were born." Watched the sweat bead on his temple as I took a sharp bend smooth as silk. He didn't know I'd fixed his sabotage or that I'd been busy all week setting him up for a fall he'd never see coming. Here's where it gets juicy. I'd taken that burner phone from his lockbox and got creative. Texted Ricky, mimicking Ethan's style, short, cocky. Plans changed. Meet at the quarry off Route 9, Friday, noon. Bring the cash. Ricky shot back. "What cash? You said 50-50 it's after," I replied. "She's onto us. Need to move fast." Planted just enough doubt to rile him up. Then I dug deeper, found Ethan's real phone when he left it charging one night. Text to Ricky about cutting him out. "Once she's gone, I don't need you. Syringes for you, not her." That syringe wasn't for me, it was Ricky's exit ticket. Ethan wasn't just greedy, he was a cold-blooded killer in training. We rolled up, and Ethan's jaw dropped. "Ricky? What the hell?" he sputtered. I cut the engine, turned to him, and let the mask drop. "You tell me, Ethan, what's the syringe for?" "The brakes. My money," he stammered, face white as chalk. Before he could bolt, Ricky stormed over, shouting, "You double-crossing punk. Where's my cut?" I'd sent Ricky the screenshots from the burner, Ethan's plan to ditch him. They squared off, shoving, cursing. I stepped back, pulled my phone, and hit record. Got Ethan yelling, "Yeah, I poisoned her tea. Brakes too. She's worth more dead." Every damning word on video. I'd called Sheriff Dan on the drive, told him to hang back till I waved him in. They showed up just as Ethan swung again, pinning him face down in the gravel. Ricky spilled too, begging for a deal. Cops hauled them both off, Ethan screaming I'd ruined him. I just stood there, sipping tea from my thermos, watching the dust settle. The twist: I'd never changed the will. Ethan was still in for the millions until he got himself caught. Now, it's all going to those cats. Guess I'm tougher than he ever dreamed. Family's blood, but trust, that's earned. And he burned his to ash. The twist: I'd never changed the will. Ethan was still in for the millions until he got himself caught. Now, it's all going to those cats. Guess I'm tougher than he ever dreamed. Family's blood, but trust, that's earned. And he burned his to ash. That's the end of today's story. Give this video a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next stories. See you next time.